I wanted to take some time and talk about grief. What does that even mean? And when do we grieve? The first thing that we think about is, well, we grieve when somebody that we care about dies. And that is absolutely true. There are a lot of other times that we find ourselves grieving that we ourselves may not recognize that we are grieving, or we might not recognize in those around us that they are grieving something, feeling true grief, even though the loss doesn't have to do with another person passing away. There's a lot of times that can happen. Really, it's any time that we have a loss of something that's material to us, important to us, part of our fabric as a person. So we can grieve in a situation of divorce. We can grieve in a situation where we or someone we love is dealing with chronic illness, a diagnosis of a medical illness, the impacts of an illness. We certainly grieve when we're living with those, or we care about somebody who's traversing chronic illness. That is definitely something that grief exists in. Some of the other times that we can grieve are if we have to change things that are normal. So maybe we have to move to a different home, a different town. Kids move to a different school. They're going to grieve their normal, the kind of day they're used to having, the rooms, that what their house feels like and looks like, everything that's normal to them, the people that they're usually around. So when we go into those new situations, we're grieving the ones that we're leaving, the ones that feel normal to us. If we have a traumatic event, we can grieve our safety, our feeling of safety, our feeling of being in control of our body or of our own safety. We can grieve feeling in control when we get into situations where we feel completely out of control. And that is definitely something that we grieve. Sometimes it's people, but it's not necessarily death that separates us. In a lot of families, there's alienation for all kinds of different reasons, and that can certainly be something to grieve. If we're cut off from a relationship or a family member for some reason, we grieve the loss of that relationship. We can also grieve as our family structure changes, as we have kids who leave for college. Maybe we have a child who gets married and we feel a distance from them because they now have other people in their life other than us. Those situations, as our family dynamics change, we can certainly grieve those as well. If we have somebody who goes to prison or is incarcerated, certainly those family members grieve. Certainly the person who is incarcerated is grieving. So those are all things, and there's certainly so many more to consider. But the first step when we're dealing with the heavy emotions of grief is to really recognize that that's what we're dealing with, or that's what the people around us are dealing with. Because when we realize that, we can meet it with a whole lot more compassion. We don't have to beat ourselves up for feeling the things that we're feeling or feel confused about the heavy emotions that we're going through. Instead, we can recognize I'm grieving a loss and I need to be compassionate with myself. A lot of times people who do lose people to death will have what are called secondary losses, and because of the primary loss of that person, they will incur a lot of these secondary losses. Moving from their home is one of the biggest ones. So if we've lost a person and now we've also had to move to another place to live, we have a secondary loss, we need to really be gentle with ourselves as we recognize that we are grieving not just one loss, but many losses, and that they compound and all come together to really be heavy. So recognizing that is a first step in allowing ourselves or those people around us who are dealing with these things a whole lot of compassion. Thanks.